Ka'ahanu i alto te tahak iki me te taha at pei me te hinu enata. Hello to all of you, the chiefs and chiefesses from the land of men. This story is from the Marquesas Islands. This story is the story of Kai. And it's a 30-minute long story. And this story, I think, is considered to be tapu, to be sacred. And there's some parts in the story that are embarrassing. I apologize, but it's part of the symbolism of the story. If you take those parts out, it removes the symbolism. This is our story. This story is from the island of Hina-i-Vainoi. And this man, it's a story about a man named Kai. And Kai, he was born in Taaoa. And he went to Tahiti. And Tahiti was a valley on the opposite side of the island. And in Tahiti, he was born in Taaoa and he went to Vainoi. Vainoi is on the opposite side of the island. In Vainoi, there weren't any men. There were just women. And these women, their husbands were pandanus roots. And when a woman became pregnant and she was close to giving birth to a baby, there are these two shamans that would come and they would cut open the stomach of the mother and take out the baby. The mother would die. And that was how the women, that's what happened with women who were pregnant, who were pregnant in Vainoi. And one day a man came into this valley of Vainoi and he saw this wonderful valley because there were no men there, just women. And the man, he hid himself near the bathing place where the women would bathe because every morning they'd go down to the river and they would bathe. They would go down in the morning, they would go and they would sleep with their husbands, the pandanus roots, and then they would go bathe in the river. And this man, he hid in that bathing place. And there was a group of women and they came to the house of the chiefess, to Hina-i-Vainoi. Her name was Hina-i-Vainoi. And these women they called, Hina-i-Vainoi! And the chiefess answered, and these women said, let's go down and let's go to our work. And the chiefess said, okay. So all the women went. And they slept with their husbands, the pandanus roots. And when that was done, they went and they bathed in the river. And when that was done, all the women, they went. Except the chiefess, she stayed in her bathing pool. And that man, Kai, who was hiding there, he showed himself to the chiefess. And she was very happy to see a man. And she said, I have a question. What is your name? And he said, I have the right to ask. You must answer because this is your valley. And that was like a traditional sort of a greeting in ancient times. That the visitor to the valley, that the people in the valley would have to say who they were first, then the visitor. Because the visitor could ask them first, and then they had to answer. Then he would introduce himself. He said, I have the right to ask, you must answer. And she said, I am Hina-i-Vainoi. And he said, I am Kai. And the woman, she said, you are my husband. And he said to her, you are my wife. And so those two, they went to the house of the chiefess. And they didn't tell anybody. They went to the house of Hina-i-Vainoi, and she did not tell anybody. They just went there. And for 3 days, they stayed in the house and they didn't go out. And every day, the women, they would go and they would sleep with the pandanus roots. Lay with the pandanus roots. And they would come and they would call to the chiefess, Hina-i-Vainoi, let's go to our work. And Hina-i-Vainoi, they would call 3 times. And finally, Hina-i-Vainoi, she'd open the door. She says, I'm not going to come. You guys go. I'm sick. And so these women went, and when they were done with their pandanus, with their husbands, the pandanus roots, then they went and bathed, and then they went all back to their houses. And it was 3 days like this. These women, they called to the chiefess, and she said, I'm not coming. I'm sick. You guys go. And some women, they got thinking, and they said, there's a man with our chiefess. Another woman said, how is it a man has come into our valley? And they said, the cheeks of the chiefess are scratched. And so some women, they went to the chiefess and they asked her, tell us, our chiefess, is there a man living with you? Is there a man sleeping with you? She said, no. They said, who's been scratching you? And she said, I get scratched on a pandanus spine. And they said, That's not like a pandana spine scratch. Those are fingernail scratches. And the chiefess, she kept denying it, but those women, they kept thinking, there's a man sleeping with their chiefess. And one day, a messenger came to the house, and he said to the chiefess, the day after tomorrow, you come down. On the third day, we're going to cut open the woman. We're going to cut open the stomach of the old woman. And Hina-i-Vainoi, she said, yeah, I'll go. And when the messenger went away, Kai asked his wife, why are you going to cut open the stomach of this mother? She said, to get the child out. And when you get the child out, what's going to happen to the mother? The mother's going to die. It's always been that way with us since the very beginning of time. And Kai, he said to his wife, he said, my wife, you stop doing that. With us, we do not cut open the stomachs of mothers. We have them give birth. Then Kai said to his wife, when you go down there tomorrow, you tell the women to break off noni leaves. And then you tie those noni leaves to the waist of the woman, tie 3 packets. And 2 women, they'll sit in front of the woman, in front of the mother. One will sit behind her back. And then you take a rope and you tie it on the front rafter of the house. When the woman goes into labor, the amniotic fluid is going to break, and then the child is going to be born. When the child is born, cut the umbilical cord. Then you take the mother and you massage her so that the pufenua, the placenta, comes out. Then take shrimp, mashed shrimps and coconut and feed it to the child. Then you take some breadfruit paste, put it in a bowl, put in hot rocks to heat it. When it's hot, then what you do is you feed it to the mother. And the wife, she said, okay, I'll do that. And the next day, there are these 2 shaman, Pohihi and Pohaha. They came because on the next day they were going to cut open the mother. And the chiefess and some women, they were wailing because this woman's going to die. And the chiefess, she came and she said to the woman, go break off some noni leaves and get 3 packets. So those noni leaves were prepared, and those 2 shaman, they knew what the chiefess was going to do. They'd known all along and they hadn't said anything. And so those packets of noni leaves were prepared, and some women asked, what are these packets of noni leaves for? And the chiefess, she said, tomorrow morning we're going to see. And when it was light, when it was in the morning, when it was light, those 2 shaman, they had their sharp-toothed knives, and they were going to cut open the stomach of the mother. And the chiefess, she says, do not cut open this woman. And she said to the women, she said, put a packet of noni leaves underneath her anus. There'll be 2 women who will sit in front of her. One's going to sit behind her. Take a rope and tie it to the front rafter of the house. And then the chiefess, she said to the woman who had this baby in her stomach, she says, you hold on to that rope. And then she said, when you go into labor, when the travail comes, the amniotic fluid is going to break, and then the child is going to be born after that. And then she told the woman, that the chiefess, she said to those 2 shaman, to Pohihi and Pohaha, she said, you are 2 very evil men. And they were ashamed, and then they went. And the chiefess, she taught the women all the things that her husband had told her. And some women, they went and they grated some coconut. Some other women, they went and collected shrimp, and they mashed the shrimp and the coconut, and they heated it. And they fed to the child. And then the chiefess, she said to those women, and then they made some medicine for the mother, and they fed it to the mother. They heated that up and they fed it to the mother. And then the chiefess, she said to the woman, they said, when the umbilical cord falls off, then stop feeding the child the shrimp. These women said, okay, we'll do that. And the chiefess, she went back home to her husband and she said, if not for you, my husband, the old woman would have died. And one day, some other women, they saw the husband of the chiefess. And they said to the chiefess, tell us truly, a man sleeping with you. It would be good, our chiefess, that you give us our husband, that we can sleep with our husband. And the chiefess says, I don't want that. And those women said, it wouldn't be long, he'd come back to you. And the chiefess said, I absolutely do not want that. And when those women were pregnant, were pregnant, they would cut them open. When those women were pregnant, they would not call again to the Pohihi and Pohaha to come. And they wouldn't call to those two shamans to come and cut open the stomach of the mother. And then what happened next was, one day the woman, she said to her husband, she says, come and pick the lice out from my head, from my hair. So the husband, he was picking out the lice from his wife's head, and he saw that there were gray hairs among her black. And he said, my wife, you have gray hairs. And she said, never mind about that. When I become old, I can make myself young again like a teenage girl. And the wife said, you come here. I will pick the lice out from your hair. So the wife, she's picking out the lice from her husband's hair, and she saw there were lots of gray hairs. She said to her husband, you're old. She said, tomorrow morning, we'll go surfing. And so the husband, he said, okay. And the next morning, Kai and Hina, they went surfing. And when they went, Kai, he said to his wife, when they went surfing, Kai said to his wife, to Hina-i-Vainoi, he said, you surf first. She says, no, you surf first. You show me how it's done. So then Kai, he surfed, and he surfed 3 times. And when he was done surfing, he was just the same as ever. Then the wife, she said to him, you watch me, you look at me. And the wife, she surfed on the sea waves 3 times. And after 3 surfings, she came onto the shore, and she was young, just like a shrimp when the shell has been removed. And she said to her husband, look at me. How am I surfing? When you look at me, what is it I am like? Am I like what I was before? Is my appearance like I was before? And Guy said no. The husband, he said no. And the husband, he was ashamed. And the wife, she became pregnant. And the baby grew in her stomach for 6 months. And one day the husband said to his wife, he says, I am going to go and prepare all the possessions, the presents for our child. If you give birth to a boy, give him the name of Tahina-to-kai. And the wife said, okay. And the wife said to her husband, don't you go right away. You wait 3 days, and then you go. My older brother will take you. You will go with Tunua-nui. Tunua-nui means the great whale. And so the wife, she called her brother, Tunua-nui. And Tunua-nui, he came. And she said, take your brother-in-law to Taaoa. And Tunua-nui said, yes, I will take him. And he talked like that because he was a whale. And so Kai climbed up on this whale, and the wife, she said to Kai, she said, when you get to Matawhenua Point, give a kick. Give a kick to Motutapu, Mototomotomo, Matau Ka'ea, Papa Otoniaho, Motofi, o Kakenatitapuna. 6 little islands. You kick those islands, and then your brother-in-law will know to turn his head to here in Vainoi, and his tail to Matawhenua. And so Kai got on the whale, the Kai got on the whale, and they set off. And when they got to Matawhenua Point, he did not kick the islands. And the whale, he kept on going. And that whale got to Taaoa. And he got to Taaoa. That whale could not go back into the sea. He was stuck on the sand. And the people in that place, they saw this whale, and they cut him up. And when the people from Tahuti were cutting up this whale, his blood was felt on the breast of his sister Hina-i-Vainoi. And she wept for her brother. She said, you are bad, my husband. I weren't. When the whale was going, before they got to Taaoa, when they got to Matawhenua Point, he did not kick the islands. And the sister, she said, my husband, you are bad. Now your brother. you did not kick the islands. Now your brother is going to, now the brother-in-law is going to die. And so the whale went head first, and he got to Taaoa. That whale, when he got up onto the beach at Taaoa, he could not go back into the sea. He was stuck on the sand. And the people in Tahiti, he was caught by the people, and they cut him up. And the people in Tahiti cut up this whale. His sister felt his blood on her breast, and she said, "You are a very evil man, my husband. I warned you, and you did not listen. You did not obey." And Kai, he went up the valley, and he told the people in his valley, he said to some people, "Go and prepare a bathing pool for my child in the river." So some people, they went and made that bathing pool. He said to some other people, "Go and raise pigs for my child." And he said to some other, "Go and plant bananas, plant sugar cane, gather up the old coconuts, raise chickens, plant paper hibiscus." And so those people, they went and prepared those things. Okay? And those things, when they were prepared, they became tapu. That is, they were sacred. They were reserved for the child of Kai. That's who they were prepared for. And the people were waiting for the child of Kai to come to Taaoa. And so the wife, Hina-i-Vainoi, she gave birth to a baby. When she gave birth, it was a boy. And the name she gave the child was Tahina-to-kai, like the father had asked. And that boy, the mother, she fed her son. She took care, she raised her son. She nourished him. And that child, he grew. Time went by, and he grew. And his work was to play with the other children in Vainoi. And one day, he got into an argument. This boy, Tahina-to-kai, got in an argument with another fellow in Vainoi. And that boy, he made fun of Hina-i-Vainoi. And some other children, they gathered around him, and they said, "Who are you to talk to us? Your father is a stranger." And that boy, he wept. And he went to his mother. And he said, "They made fun of me. They said that I have a father. Mother, it would be good you tell me. Where is my father? What is the name of my father?" And the mother, she said, "You have no father, my child. I alone am your mother." And that boy said, "Don't hide it from me. Those other children, I was told about my father. You are hiding it from me." And that child, he would not eat. He kept on crying. And the mother, she said to her child, "You stop your crying, my son. Your father's name is Tahuti. Your father's name is Kai. He lives in Tahuti. That's the land of your father. It would be good if you eat. Tomorrow morning you will go and see your father." So that child, he ate. The mother said, "Tomorrow morning you will go to your father. Tunuiti will take you." The first brother of Hina-i-Vainoi was Tunua-nui, which means the great Tunua. Tunuaiti is the other brother, which means the little Tunua. And so in the morning, the mother, she called her brother, "Tunuaiti!" And Tunuaiti, her brother, he came. Tunuaiti, the whale, he came. And the mother, she said to her brother, the sister, she said to her brother, "Take your Imutu, your nephew, to Taaoa." And Tunuaiti said, "Yes, I will take him." The way it was, and I used to talk like that because he was a whale. The way it was in the ancient times, the mother's brothers and the father's sisters were the pahu-pahu. The Tongan equivalent is fahu. The father's sister. But the mother's brothers and the father's sisters were the pahu-pahu. They would do really wonderful things for the children. Like, if somebody killed the child, the pahu-pahu would organize a war for revenge. Or when a young lady had her first menstrual period, they would hold a party for her. And they would pass her over their heads. Okay? Because there was this contamination, I guess, from the menstrual blood, and they were taking it upon themselves because they loved their niece. Okay, so these brothers were pahu-pahu, and the child is the Imutu. Okay, so Tunuiti is the pahu-pahu, and this boy Tahina-to-kai is the Imutu. So he's going to, the pahu-pahu is going to do nice things for the child. And so the mother, she said to her child, "It is you, my child. When you get to Whainui Point, give a kick. Because a long time ago, your father went to Nui, took your father to Taaoa. And he did not kick those islands, those little islands. And because of that, Nui is dead." And that child said, "Mother, I will kick the islands." And the mother, she rubbed noses with her child. And she wept bitterly. She wept sorely over her child. And that boy, the nephew, he got up on his uncle, and they set off. And when the boy and the whale got to Whainui Point, that boy, he gave a kick. He kicked those islands. And the mother, she wept, because the sound of the kicking reached inside her ear. And that whale, he turned to his tail towards Taaoa, and his head to Whainui Point. And the whale, he went backwards carrying his nephew to Taaoa. And when the whale got to Taaoa, the tail went up onto the beach. And that boy, the nephew, he stood up and he rubbed noses with his boo-boo with the whale. And then the boy, he got down onto the sand there in Tahuti. And the people saw the tail of this great big whale on their beach. And they thought he was stuck. It was high and dry. And they thought he was dead. And they went out there and they grabbed a hold of the tail, and then he pulled them into the sea. And those people, they drowned. His oven was taking revenge for the death of his older brother. And I'm talking here about ovens. Ovens taking revenge. Because in the old days, when they did revenge, there was basically a lot of the time it was involved an oven. You killed the person, you cooked them, and you ate them. And so it was involving an oven. So his oven took revenge for his older brother. The whale took revenge, okay? And this boy, he went up the valley. And he came and he saw a bathing pool in the river. And he bathed in the bathing pool. And he's bathing in the bathing pool, he made a booming noise in the pool. Boom. And the people, they heard that noise. It was called a poko. They heard the poko and they said, "Who is making a poko sound in the sacred bathing pool of Tahina-to-kai?" And then they came to see that boy. And they were mad at the boy. And that boy, he got out of the pool and then he went on to another place and people followed him. And he saw some ripe bananas. And that boy, he tore up the ripe bananas. Tearing. And the people were mad at him because he messed up the bananas. And they followed him. And then the boy went and he came to some sugar cane. And it was just the same as before. He tore up the sugar cane. And then the anger of the people was huge. Now, they'd seen all these things. Everything had been messed up by this boy. And that boy was caught by some people, and they took him to these two shamans, these two old shamans. And these two old shamans, they took the boy and they put him in a hole in the ground. And they were going to wait 3 days, and they were going to strangle the boy. And after 3 days were over, these two old shamans, they came, and there were some people who came because they wanted to see the boy get strangled. And they came and they took the boy out of the hole. And when they started to strangle him, that boy, he began to chant. And he said, "Oi, oi, oi, tui mai tu'ukui, Hina-i-Vainoi, enatamotua, Kai Tahuti, imawai oi Tahina-to-kai." Which means, "Oi, oi, oi, there is my mother, Hina-i-Vainoi." She said, "Your father is Kai and Tahuti. Why are you laying hands on Tahina-to-kai?" And he chanted that 3 times. And after he'd done that, the shaman sent a messenger to go and fetch Kai. The messenger went up to Kai's house, and he told him. He said, "Come down to Tahuti." And Kai said, "Why?" The messenger said, "There's a boy in a hole in the ground. And we all came this morning to see him get strangled. When we were strangling that boy, all of us heard his chant. And Kai said, what was the chant? Tell me the chant. And the messenger said, that messenger said what the chant was. Oh, oh, yeah, like that all the way to the end of the chant. And Kai said, is the child dead? And the messenger said, no, we're waiting for you. Then we're going to strangle him. And Kai, he stood up, and he picked up his club, and he said, ape, ahe, which means prepare, let's go. So then they went down, and when they got down to that place, to Tahuti, the people saw Kai coming with tears in his hands and a club in his hand. And then the people from Tahuti, they were scared because they knew that this boy was the firstborn son of Kai. And when Kai saw the boy in the hole, he said to the shaman, take the boy out of the hole. And so Kai said to the boy, who is your name? And the boy said, Tahina-to-kai. I here am, Tahina-to-kai. And then the father took his son. His father took the boy, and he put him on his shoulders and back to make the boy tapu. And then the shaman, they took this boy. They were going to anoint or ordain the boy because he was like the son of the chief. They took this boy to the chief. They said, now our chief, we are going to ordain the boy. And Kai, he said, because he's the chief, he said to the shaman, he said, it's good that you do the work to ordain my son. And so what they did is they went and cut down the bananas. They went and they cut down the sugar cane. And they went and cut down the sugar cane. They chopped up the old coconuts. They cut down the sugar cane. They went and cut the paper hibiscus. And the women shaman, they went and took the paper hibiscus bark and they made a top model, which is it's a girdle, okay? It's clothing for a man, and they prepared it for the boy. And then when they were done doing their work to ordain the child, then that child, he lived with his father. This story is done.